Hey guys, what is up? Swim here. Just got back from the BTS house party, but I wanted to make a really quick video for you guys now that Artifact is live, covering a very important strategy in Artifact that a lot of people aren't talking about, but one that kind of dominates a lot of different situations in the game. This is somewhat of an advanced strategy, but it's extremely common that you're going to need to be thinking about this as you play Artifact. And what I'm talking about is a concept that I've been calling pass bluffing. So specifically in Artifact, you have this idea of both players taking turns, right? Playing cards, and everyone understands initiative, which is the idea that when you play first, you have this advantage of, being able to lock your opponent out of options, killing, silencing, or stunning heroes, etc., and not be locked out of options yourself. Basically, the concept here is that it's not always actually good to have initiative, and this is something that a lot of my Gwent viewers will kind of understand, because in Gwent going second is actually better, because you want to play for reactivity in a lot of situations. Artifact kind of balances that and makes it situational. Sometimes, like in Gwent, you want to play going second, and sometimes, like in Hearthstone or Magic, you want to play going first. So the idea is that there's going to be a lot of situations where you're looking at a board, you're playing Artifact, and you have to go first, you have initiative, and you actually don't want initiative. You want to see what the opponent will do first. So you do a soft pass, right? You pass even though you have a playable card, just to see what they will do, because maybe you have a tool that might be better if they do option A and worse if they do option B, and you want to see what they do before you commit yours, right? Now, there are risks to this, namely, if your opponent passes back, maybe they didn't even have an option they could play at all, or they understand that you're trying to do this, can identify that, and are choosing to lock both of you out of options, because keep in mind, if both players pass back to back, the lane ends, right? So what do you do about that? So before I get into the nitty gritty, let me show you guys exactly what I mean. So this is a clip from last week's Beyond the Summit preview tournament. This is just one board situation, and this is Nyman versus Joel Larsen. So basically in this situation, Nyman has first play. Nyman has a total of 6 non-item cards in hand, and Joel Larsen has 4. Nyman has green on the board in Lycan, and Joel Larsen has green and black with Abaddon and Debbie, right? So you are Nyman, you're in this board state, and what you want to do is you want to play either Satyr Duelist or Selfish Cleric, right? And typically, because you have to play a creep in one of these two slots, the Selfish Cleric looks like a good play, right? You can play it in front of this 2/4 creep. It'll eat it immediately and heal itself, just kind of developing the unit for the future potential. But what Nyman chooses to do here, as you can see, is takes the soft pass, right? And the reason he's doing this is because of the cards and colors. So we're at mana 4, and Joel has specifically 2 different colors on the board. Now, this is very key, because when your opponent has 2 different colors on the board, the odds of them having no playable options severely drop. Now, keep in mind, as I mentioned before, the risk of trying to do this play is if the opponent has no playable options, you kind of gamed yourself. You just lost your option to play something for no reason, and that's really, really harsh. So Nyman's going to go ahead and take the pass here, and it's back to Joel Larsen. Joel Larsen has the Savage Wolf in hand that he would like to develop. He could even play Assault Ladders, he could play Vul Martyr. Anything he could do is pretty much better than doing nothing in terms of his own board development, right? You could Assault Ladders this lane, you could Assault Ladders another lane, but maybe the most important thing to do would be developing the Savage Wolf, right? Developing it on the left side would basically, it's a unit that you just want to play as early as possible. You can look at kind of the full board in the upper left corner here, and you can see that there's no other lane to put it on. He's not saving this for another lane. But what Joel does is he passes back. So this is an extremely nuanced situation that just happened here. Basically, Joel is making the call. He's effectively reading that Nyman was doing a soft pass, and he knows that no matter what he does, there's kind of no right answer here, given that, right? If you play the Savage Wolf, which is kind of the normal good play, it's met with either a Satyr Duelist or a Selfish Cleric, if you're kind of reading that Nyman is trying to do this kind of mind game here, right? Whereas, even if you play something like the Assault Ladder, well, this is good and it's uncounterable, But at that point, Nyman will know, okay, he doesn't really have a threat. He's not playing a Savage Wolf for anything that I want to counter. I can just play my Selfish Cleric, and that's worth more to develop than something like Assault Ladder. So what Yoel does is passes back, locking them both out of play options and kind of continuing the lane. The most important thing about the situation, though, is the fact that Yoel is very, very aware that Nyman has an option, and Nyman is very aware that Yoel has an option too. So what that means is just based on effective, you can take into considerations the amount of time the opponent took before passing, right? Like Nyman took many seconds to pass, and Yoel might be like, okay, he was thinking about something, he clearly had a play he could make, right? But beyond that, and you can kind of try to apply that to making your opponent think you have an option when you don't. But beyond that, the most important thing is that you can look at kind of the color probabilities here, right? If you're Nyman, you see 4 cards in Yoel's hand, and you see 2 different colors, right? You know, he's got 6 Assault Ladders from Sorla. He's got, you know, the Abaddon signature card, Aphotic Shield. He's got Savage Wolf, the biggest threat. He's got No Accident. He pretty much will have cards to play in his hand that he wants to play first, right? And specifically, something like Savage Wolf is a major threat that you want to be able to react to. Because if you're Nyman, you play something like Selfish Cleric in front of the melee creep, the Savage Wolf comes down, and that's going to be a lot stronger because that grows every single turn, right? So you're Nyman, you take the pass, you're confident that Yoel Larsen is not sitting on a dead hand. The most key thing is he has 2 colors. And that's kind of tip number 1 with this strategy. Do this when your opponent has 2 colors in play, right? Doing this when the opponent has 1 color in play is pretty weak, and typically this is also a strategy that you'll employ on mana turn 4 or mana turn 5. Those are kind of like most commonly where this is important. So it passes back to Yoel Larsen, and he basically kind of makes the same read. Now this is a little more impressive because you see Nyman has only 1 color on board with a Lycan, but you see Ion Shells in the deck. That's Darkseer's signature card. You know there's Satyr Duelist, you know there's Selfish Cleric, and of course you know there's Savage Wolf, which is Lycan's signature card. Ion Shell just coming down on the melee creep could just, like, you know, pick off your Debbie, which is not something you want as something like an aggro deck, perhaps. So you see 6 cards in hand. Now, you're only dealing with 1 color, but there's more cards in hand. You're more confident that there is just one of these many, like, 4 mana options you could be playing at this time, just sitting in the hand. And you kind of maybe noticed that it took him 10 seconds to pass, and you're thinking, okay, I think he's got an option. I'm going to pass back and lock both of us out of plays. The second tip, and the most important thing to consider about everything that just unfolded in this situation, is that in doing both of these passes, both of these players also need to consider what happens in the board if both of us pass, right? And that's not just something Yoel has to consider, but it's something Nyman has to consider, because you have to take into account the possibility that your opponent might call your bluff. And if they pass back, is that something I'm okay with? Who ended up winning this exchange, right? So this is an extremely common situation that's going to happen in your games in like turn 2, turn 3 of the game, like mana turn 4, mana turn 5. You're going to want to take all these factors into account, and being able to kind of take a pass proactively to gain reactivity, or being able to call a bluff by the opponent to lock him out of a play option is going to do a huge amount in terms of kind of setting the pace of the game. As we can see here, the fact that this pass happened by Yoel Larsen completely changed the way that this board ended up developing, because if he plays the Savage Wolf normally and Nyman plays the Satyr Duelist or the Selfish Cleric into it and just eats it for free, that is a huge difference in terms of how this board looks next turn. This is a skill that's going to be very, very important to master for everyone looking to play this game, not even necessarily super competitively, but even, like, you know, fairly rigorously in the future. Anyway, I just wanted to make this quick video for you guys, just trying to outline these situations, and just to let you know, so that you can kind of start thinking about, you know, these plays as they start occurring in your games, because of course we are in open or public beta at this point if you're one of the individuals who has a key. Otherwise, you only have to wait 1 more week. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, though, and I'll see you guys next time.